Alright, so let's get into this here. If it lets me switch over, there it goes. Finally, let me switch over. Welcome to Unexpected Wrestling. I am Minty, with, of course, Mr. Chonk right here. And we had an exciting week in wrestling. I don't know what you guys think, but there we go. Turn that up a little bit. So we had the premiere of Raw on Netflix. We had a lot of crazy stuff happening on the internet, a lot of crazy aftermath of the premiere of Raw on Netflix, and also some interesting things that happened during the week on other programming and wrestling. And we're going to get into a lot of that today. Mr. Chunk, how is your Sunday going, my friend?
It's going pretty good.
It's going pretty good. Yes, we had to. We
Yes.
were starting a little earlier today, testing out some new time frames. We might still be doing evenings. We might be doing early afternoons. We'll have to see. But for right now, this is how we're doing it. Hopefully, everybody is having a good day today. And let's get right into some of the wrestling news here. Of course, the biggest headline of the week is Raw premiering on Netflix. Mr. Chunk, how do you think Raw fared premiering on Netflix?
I think they fared pretty well. I know that there wasn't a ton of storyline advancement per se on that episode, but I look back on that and I realized that I think that was intentional. I think that they were trying to do something different on that first iteration, where they were trying to do more mass market appeal and focus less on the nuance of advancing storylines and more on getting the product in front of everyone, regardless of how you feel about WWE or your knowledge about the product or the knowledge about current feuds or storylines.
Yes,
so I think, in retrospect, I had to put that aside and realize it was unique to that first episode.
It felt to me like it was more like a UFC event almost.
Yes.
It didn't feel like.
And there's
they were
nothing
like-
necessarily wrong
yeah.
with that.
Missy Kaboom, thank you for stopping in. Appreciate you. Yes, it felt like they were promoting a big event. It felt different than how they normally promote Raw events. It didn't feel like just another Raw event. It didn't even feel like a pay-per-view. It felt like something different.
Yes.
And you could definitely see they were a little more relaxed with timing. They kind of let things go with the flow. The biggest thing I noticed, the most prevalent thing I noticed about like timing and the way that they were operating television shows was Jey Uso's entrance. If you notice, they drug that on. They had the commentators. They kind of stood on the table and they were going crazy. It seemed like
it's also Pat McAfee, keep that in mind.
But it seemed like it was a more relaxed attitude. It seemed like they were just kind of having fun, getting with the crowd and everything.
Well, there's less regulations with the TV executives when you're on
name?
Netflix.
The rapper's name, who was the guy? Oh my god, how did I forget this? Well, pretty much the rapper that came out with Jey Uso. I don't know
smoking a blunt, pretty much.
Smoking a blunt coming down to the ring. And yeah, Netflix is a little more relaxed.
Wait, was
on
that? That wasn't T-Pain, was it? Who was that? I forgot his name
it's
already.
the guy that's married to Kylie Jenner. For some reason, his name just isn't coming to me right now. Oh my god, I'll think of it by the end of the show. I'm sorry I'm not up to date on my rappers and stuff like that. So I'd say the presentation is different than anything that we've seen WWE do before. They were promoting the main event all night. So obviously they had a main event, and it was a great main event. We'll get into that in a little bit. The show opened with Roman and Solo Sikoa in the tribal,
Queef, right. Chief, excuse me.
No, not the tribal queef. The tribal combat. Tribal combat. But before we get into all that, one notable thing that happened during that show was they did have they had celebrities in the audience, and they also had a couple legends either in the audience or they made special appearances. One legend in particular made a lot of headlines this week on the internet, and not just the internet, like on TV in general. I think ESPN covered this. A lot of different things covered it. Hulk Hogan. They had Hulk Hogan not just show up in the crowd. He actually came out and did almost like a promo. So a little backstory. WWE, I guess, at some point got into a brand deal with Hulk Hogan's Real American Beer. And they actually have the logo on the ring during the Raw on Netflix episode, and that might be a permanent thing going forward. Hulk Hogan, I'm sure most of you know, is kind of a controversial figure. He was a big star in the 80s and 90s, and in the recent 2000s, he's kind of some mishaps. He had the whole Gawker scandal, and with that, he said some questionably racist things during that, and he kind of has not recovered with his popularity ever since. People still, I think, respect him as being one of the forces that made wrestling what it is today, but there's a lot of people that lost a lot of respect for him, and I think his biggest mistake is he never really tried to remedy that. He didn't really do much. He didn't do any public apologies. I believe he maybe did some apologies backstage at wrestling at WWE, but he's never like really tried to redeem himself to the public. And it's kind of one of those things where I think he thinks it's just going to like go away. And unfortunately it's not. And we found that out on Raw. So they had Hulk Hogan come out and cut a promo, and the crowd just wasn't having it. I would say there was maybe a 30% positive reaction, a huge negative reaction, and then there was a portion of the audience that just didn't care either way. They didn't say anything. And that's kind of the worst thing that could ever happen in wrestling, is when the audience just doesn't do anything. You want a reaction, either positive or negative. When they sit on their hands and aren't reacting at all, that's a problem. And we do have a clip that we can play of the Hulk Hogan reaction here. Just give me a moment and let me get this going to get that started here. We'll have to do this. There we go. And there. And let's play this real quick and see what you guys think of Hulk Hogan's reaction here.
Holy hell! Holy hell! Brother! The hits just keep on coming!
So that's Jimmy Hart. He's pretty much Hulk Hogan's like manager these days. Anywhere Hulk Hogan is, you'll see Jimmy Hart. And one thing, Mr. Chunk, you mentioned this earlier, it doesn't look like Hulk Hogan's in the best shape right now.
It looks like Jimmy Hart can walk better than Hulk Hogan can.
It looks like Hulk Hogan's having some trouble standing up.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's...
Maybe he needs to take his vitamins. Yeah. He needs to take his vitamins and say his prayers.
Say a lot of prayers. Say a lot of prayers, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe he needs some help from the Flintstones multivitamin.
Yeah. Bring back the Flintstones, damn it. And that, so that was the clip there. Hulk Hogan coming out to not the best reception in the world. I guess that's a fair testament to say.
And he felt corporate. The whole thing felt corporate. He didn't feel like it felt like he was there to promote his brand.
Yes.
80% of the way, and the other 20% was to just say the word
Hulk
Netflix.
Hogan. Yeah, I'm Hulk Hogan on Netflix.
Yeah.
Missy Kabumi asks, "Is Hulk Hogan still alive?" Yeah, he's still alive. He did not.
It didn't look like it. It didn't look like it.
It kind of looked like Weekend at Bernie's a little bit, or maybe one of those Chuck E. Cheese animatronic things. But no, Hulk Hogan is still alive. Believe it or not, to the chagrin of many people. So with Hulk Hogan's appearance, there was a lot of media coverage on kind of the bad reaction to Hulk Hogan. Some people knew it was coming. A lot of people didn't. And the Pat McAfee show kind of had some fun with this Hulk Hogan reception. And let's mention here, Pat McAfee was actually one of the commentators on Raw on Netflix. So kind of interesting that he would go this route the next day. But here is a little segment that he had on the Hulk Hogan appearance on Raw on Monday.
And I am getting a heads up that one of the stars of last night's show is actually doing a live press conference. Let's head over to that right now. I believe Hulk Hogan is doing a live press conference to address everything that happened last night.
Hello and welcome to this press conference that I've called the day after arguably the greatest day in my professional career. Last night, tens and tens and tens and tens and tens of millions of people watch the Hulkster
This guy
bring
actually
the
looks
house
better than
down
Hulk Hogan
on
did.
WWE
Yeah.
He looks more
Raw
like Hulk Hogan than Hulk
to
Hogan.
usher in the Netflix era.
Those muscles look
into it.
very articulate.
Yeah.
It's the greatest
He
night of
might
my
be
life.
shooting him up the roids, brother.
With that, I'd like to open it up to a couple questions.
That's good. Press conference.
Hi, Mr. Hulkster. This is Peter Penz from the Mark Times.
Yeah, I can tell you look like a mark, son.
Thank you. I appreciate that, I guess. Booing was actually trending on X last night. I wasn't sure if you had any comments about the almost negative opening that you received when you were out on the stage, sir. Thank you.
Well, yeah, if you think those were boos, I can tell you're a fucking mark, okay? I've been doing this a long time, kid, and you get used to the Hulk Hogan. Now, I will admit, I heard a couple boos smattered across the crowd, and I'll be honest, I had no idea the people in L.A. hated Jimmy Hart the way they did.
Oh.
They took one look at him with his stringy hair, stupid sunglasses, and the way he was half-assed waving that flag.
Now, wait a second. Me and Mr. Chonk in April actually met Jimmy Hart. And he looks really good for his age, even up
He
close.
does.
He might have been wearing a little bit of makeup, and maybe he had some work done with his hair. Who knows?
No,
But-
that's all natural.
But he was alive and well when we met him. Very
Energetic.
he's a nice guy. I know that they're just playing a joke here, but Jimmy Hart is alive and well, and I expect him to be alive for quite a while longer.
Around, and I should have expected it. Those liberal marks out there can't stand a MAGA champion like the Hulkster. But again,
See, now that's something I forgot to mention. Hulk Hogan also is a little controversial with his ties to Donald Trump and the Republican Party. He was part of Trump's promotional team during his run for president. So that could also have part of the boos. They were in California, and everyone's woke and whatever in California. That could be. There's a mixture of what that could all be. But I think the major portion of it is that the general public isn't a big fan of Hulk Hogan anymore. I think that's the main problem with all that.
they weren't booing the Hulkster. They were booing Jimmy Hart. Everybody loves the Hulkster, dude.
Yeah. So,
I think maybe he needs to Hulk Tua a little bit.
Hulk Tua.
Yeah, Hulk Tua, yeah.
Yeah. So obviously Hulk Hogan, Pat McAfee show having some fun with the Hulk Hogan drama on Raw. We'll see if they have Hulk Hogan show up again anytime soon. You never know. Also, something interesting that happened before we get into the Raw feedback here. Vince McMahon released a statement. He released a statement after he reached a settlement with the SEC. I'm not sure what the SEC stands for.
Securities Exchange Commission.
Securities Exchange Commission. So apparently he violated the Securities Exchange Act and will be forced to pay $400,000 in a civil penalty, and then reimburse WWE $1.33 million that I'm assuming that he used WWE funds to cover some of these, let's say, distractions that he had while he was the owner of the company.
That group at the government is in charge of monitoring public companies to make sure that, from a financial perspective, they're doing what they say they're doing on paper.
Yes.
Right? Sometimes these companies say one thing on paper, and then after an audit, you find out they did not do what they said on paper. And that's what this group is in charge of doing, is finding out when they did not do what they said, and finding out if they broke the law in doing so.
Okay. So we do have a statement that was posted by Vince McMahon here, and I will try to read it in my best Vince McMahon voice that I can. Let's see here if I can. Whoops. See if I can do this here. Okay. The case is closed. Today ends nearly 3 years of investigation by different governmental agencies. there has been a great deal of speculation on what exactly the government was investigating and what the outcome would be. As today's resolution shows, much of that speculation was misguided and misleading. In the event, there was never anything more than just minor accounting errors with regard to some personal payments that I made several years ago while CEO of the WWE. I'm thrilled that I can now put this behind me. So, Vince McMahon very energetic with his statement there that he made. But the interesting thing is, he says the case is closed when probably in reality it might not be, because although the government looking into the case may be closed,
There's a civil suit still.
yeah, he still has the Janelle Grant thing on his back. And I have my opinions on that. Obviously, what he did was very inappropriate, especially for a CEO of a major company. But I do think that the Janelle Grant team, the lawyer especially, I think they're trying to fish for a settlement. This is my opinion, obviously, because it seems like anytime that there's any positive WWE news, they always want to release a statement, just kind of be like, hey, we're still here. We still have a lawsuit against Vince McMahon. It seems like anytime there's any WWE's in the press at all, Janelle Grant and her lawyer always release some sort of statement, and even though they have no new news, they're just kind of like, oh, we still have an investigation, we still have a lawsuit. And then recently I heard that they are seeking private litigation, which tells me that they are trying to get into settlement talks with Vince McMahon and his team, and I would not be surprised if sometime in the near future we find out that there is some sort of closed settlement that we'll never know the amount of money that's paid. But the thing with the Janelle Grant thing is they claim that they're seeking justice, but if you're accepting a payment, I don't see what kind of justice that is, because whatever payment Vince McMahon would give you is probably just chump change to him at this point. The guy's a multi-billionaire. I really don't... I don't see, like, people see this as a doom and gloom and that Vince McMahon's over. I really don't see that happening. I think the guy is eventually just going to pay this whole thing off. Regardless how you feel about it or not, I think that he's a pretty disgusting human being. I'm glad that the WWE kind of parted ways with him. And everything in my mind tells me that they will continue to have parted ways with him. I don't see...
Yeah, that's the most accountability you'll see out of this whole situation.
I don't see him finding any way back into the WWE in any other than when he passes away. They might do a rest in peace memorial to him.
Yeah.
Or something.
If you think that there's going to be some public statement from him apologizing for his actions, there's no incentive for him to do it, given that he's not associated with the WWE. He sold his shares. He's got his money. What other punishment can be delivered unless the government charges him with a crime?
Yeah, and that's the thing that I see with the Janelle Grant. She keeps on desperately trying to link WWE to the actions that he did, when pretty much the whole SEC thing kind of tied all the loose ends in regards to his connection with WWE and WWE's involvement in those lawsuits.
But they've been culpable? It's possible, but there's probably going to be no irrefutable proof to prove who had their hand in the pot in that situation.
I think
however many years ago,
the people
right?
that she has tied into that lawsuit are who, like John Laurinaitis, Vince McMahon. They're trying to tie Brock Lesnar in there, even though he's merely just mentioned. He didn't actually do anything illegal, from what I saw. I mean, I read the whole thing. It seemed like Vince McMahon used... I mean, I'm not going to get totally into the whole thing, but it seemed like Vince McMahon used her as collateral to convince Brock Lesnar to sign a new contract. Very, very weird situation. And if I'm perfectly honest, if you looked into the skeletons in any big business owner's closet, you would probably find some very similar things in many of these big business owners. Don't think that this is an isolated case with the WWE and Vince McMahon.
It doesn't make it right, and it sucks, and it's a shame that these companies don't act on things a lot sooner. And in the end, the best punishment you're going to get is a check at this point.
Yes, Yeah, I don't see them. I don't think Janelle Grant's case has enough legs to actually land him in jail.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think a public embarrassment, sure.
Right.
Maybe they're trying to see if WWE will give them some sort of payment. I don't think they will. I think that they've cut their ties with Vince McMahon and they're just going to let him die in his own battle here. I don't think WWE.
No, I
is
wish
gonna
these
give her
companies
much
would
money.
have more accountability sooner so these things don't happen.
Sure.
I don't know how you prevent that from happening in the future.
Yeah.
I think that goes a little bit beyond this conversation, but you know, we are where we are.
Yeah.
And
It's kind of
let's just say
a wait and see
Vince-
approach at this
yeah.
point with that.
let's just say Vince McMahon, I'm sure, is extremely thrilled to put this behind him,
Yes.
among other things.
Well, who knows what
Behind
else.
him.
Yeah, who knows what else is behind him at this point. Okay, on that note, we are going to move on to the Raw on Netflix recap here. We got a few things we want to talk about, some major segments that happened. And let's start right at the beginning. So, Raw on Netflix premieres, and they start with a big video package. They actually released a video package a little bit before Raw on Netflix. And it kind of gives you an insight of what the presentation is going to be like. It's hard to explain. Like, the only thing that I could really compare it to would be like something that you would see at the Super Bowl. This video package that they had about WWE's history, the history of wrestling, the history of WWE, the fans' connection with the product. Very well done. I'm not sure who they had make that video package, but it's something that, like, we've never seen something of that quality before on a wrestling product, so that was very cool to see. And the way they did it, so beforehand, online, we got to see the video package, and everyone was making a big deal about it. In the arena, they actually had, like, these, they basically had the ring covered with this, like, canvas draped down over the ring, and they played the video on the canvas so everybody in the arena could see. And then when the video was over, there was a little bit of a firework presentation and the canvas fell, and of course none other than Triple H standing in the middle of the ring, because anytime something significant happens in WWE now, Triple H has to be the first person to come out and say welcome to whatever. Basically the first person the crowd sees. So Triple H is in the ring, he cuts a little promo, are you ready for Raw on Netflix? Does all that, gets the crowd all hyped up, and then out comes The Rock. And we've had kind of a mixed reaction to The Rock here, because I think a lot of fans were a little disappointed that The Rock seemed to be out of character. In my opinion, he wasn't out of character, so I think that there's a difference between Dwayne Johnson and The Rock. And when Raw on Netflix kicked off after Triple H, we saw Dwayne Johnson come out. We didn't see The Rock. You didn't see the final boss. You saw Dwayne Johnson. And Dwayne Johnson is the movie star, the public relations. You know, he's going to come out and he's going to hug people. He's going to high-five people. He's going to cut a
He's there to
positive
promote the
promo.
product.
Yes. We didn't see The Rock. He wasn't the final boss.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
didn't,
and then next
you know-
time we see him, he might be that, right?
Well, yes.
And I
so
think
he cut a
fans didn't
promo.
expect that.
No, the fans expected some sort of, like, they expected the progression of a
Question
storyline.
of, well, they thought business as usual, but on Netflix. And I admit, I had that same expectation going in, and then after the show was over, I had to take a step back and realize what WWE was trying to accomplish that night,
Peaches
which is
for
different
free,
from
thanks
what
for
we will
coming.
see.
Yes. So The Rock pretty much came out and he promoted WWE on Netflix, emphasized on how much of a big deal it was, and then of course The Rock, he always goes off script and kind of does his own thing. I do think so. I blame part of it on WWE because they didn't time it correctly. You can't have The Rock come out and then the next segment be Tribal Combat, because there's a connection there between The Rock and Roman Reigns and all of that. So it's like, if you're not going to have The Rock progress in that storyline, then maybe you should have had Tribal Combat later in the show, or maybe had The Rock come out later in the show. I'm not sure. because I think they got the fans' hope up a little bit, not purposely, and I think the fans felt a little left down maybe for not having. Why doesn't it let me stop that from streaming? I guess the fans felt a little cheated that they didn't get like progress in the story. I guess is a good way to put it. So
because you know what additionally felt weird when he also basically handed off the Ulafala to Roman Reigns after the match.
Yeah,
So that was
gonna get into
further confusion.
Yeah, he basically. So okay, we'll get into that. Roman Reigns ended up winning the Tribal Combat match, which meant that he got possession of the Ulafala, and Paul Heyman basically had possession of the Ulafala during the match, and he was going to award whoever won with the it's a little like flower thing that they put around their neck. So Paul Heyman gets into the ring to award Roman Reigns the Ulafala, and all of a sudden, without any intro music or anything, The Rock came out, and he kind of. I don't know if we saw a little bit of the final boss there, because he kind of did give him a stare down. And you kind of thought something was going to happen. You thought The Rock was going to do something. And pretty much The Rock just took the Ulafala from Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman's reaction was kind of like in storyline mode. Like he had shocked look on his face. And then The Rock just pretty much put the Ulafala on Roman Reigns and gave him a hug. And I think
and there was very little stare down. I would have expected like shake the hand, but not pull away quickly, which is what you see when there's more to that story. So was that The Rock doing that, or was that Dwayne Johnson doing that? And it's
I don't know.
kind of not clear.
The lines a little bit.
Yeah.
Flash forward though, we're gonna step out of Raw for a little bit, because we don't cover NXT on this show, but we're gonna cover this a little bit because it involves The Rock. The Rock actually ended up going to NXT on Tuesday, which is very odd. And basically really had no real purpose of being there other than just The Rock is on NXT, so that will boost the ratings.
And NXT, I think, was filmed. It was New Year's Evil, I think.
Yes, it was it
happened to be in the same physical location as Raw was. So I think he was already in the area.
Doom, or was it somewhere else? I don't think it was.
I don't remember if it was in the same arena, but it was in the same city.
Probably.
It was in the same city.
Yeah.
So it was not like he had to fly across the country to where NXT was, the Performance Center or whatever.
Yeah. So The Rock pretty much just came in. He cut a couple backstage promos. The one with Ethan Page, I should have got a video of it. It was actually pretty funny. And then he cut an in-ring promo right at the end of the show. So pretty much the main event of New Year's Evil was The Rock. And he cut a promo at the end of the show. Of course, he went off script. But what was interesting is he was the final boss in that promo. He wasn't Dwayne Johnson. He kind of made a comment saying, sit your ass down and let The Rock take you on a ride.
And he said that before.
Yeah.
During the original Cody Rhodes, yeah.
He actually commented on fans being upset that he hugged Cody Rhodes at Raw, and he said that The Rock is always 12 steps ahead. So he did kind of lean into that maybe there's a little more to the story that we don't know. And I think in the future we'll find out more about that. It's up in the air if he's going to be at WrestleMania. I tend to think he will be, but there's a lot of people that don't think he will be, and that they think that that's why he was kind of just playing off as Dwayne Johnson on Raw instead of being in character. And I think that I think after the Royal Rumble, we'll really know if he's going to be there or not.
Yeah.
I think that
or in what capacity, right?
Yeah. I think that he's playing the crowd a little bit, I think.
And maybe he doesn't know himself, right? Like, The Rock's the type of person that if he's going to be involved, he's all in, right? Yeah. And if he can't be all in, then they're just going to give him, like, a match that doesn't need any real hype behind it, and that he just shows up the day of WrestleMania and does the match, right? Yeah. And I don't think, if you're going to continue the Bloodline / Cody / The Rock storyline, I think that's something The Rock would want to be fully vested in. I don't think he would just be like, hey, I got to go back to Hollywood, and I'll come back the day of WrestleMania to do my bit. Yeah. and continue that. I don't think that's what he would want to do,
One thing
unless that's the beginning of it at then. But
one
with
thing
3 months in between,
I don't think fans are thinking of is maybe WWE doesn't have it all mapped out yet. Maybe they don't have like a 100% definitive plan for that yet. So maybe that's why he's kind of wishy-washy.
and maybe The Rock doesn't know either, right?
Yeah,
I mean, The
so
Rock probably
maybe-
wants to keep himself busy and not just sit around waiting for WWE to give him a phone call,
Yeah,
right?
so maybe
So-
maybe they just haven't etched anything in like 100% yet. I feel like if he's going to be participating in WrestleMania, it's going to be against Roman. I know that they've hinted at a Cody thing, but I think this is the year to do Roman versus The Rock. I think we lost it. I think 2 years ago they almost did it, but then something happened and they couldn't do it. Last year they really wanted to do it, but then fans themselves kind of pushed them in a different direction. And I think this year they have to. If The Rock is available, I think they have to do it this year. This is the last year that they're going to be able to do it. Because I don't think people want to see Cody and Roman again. Not at WrestleMania.
No.
Anyway.
No, I agree.
So I think The Rock and Roman is the natural choice there. And it doesn't need to be for a title. That's the best thing. It doesn't need to be for a title. Okay, so we kind of discussed the Roman Solo thing. I thought they had a decent match. Something about Solo I just can't... I'm not fully connected to his character yet. And I think a lot of that has to do with when he was in the original Bloodline with Roman, he kind of never spoke. Like, we didn't really get a character. He was just kind of like an enforcer. Kind of what Jacob Fatu's doing now for Solo. So it's like, now that he's speaking more and he has more of a character, he's almost like a mob boss type thing. I guess, like, I'm sort of more connected to him now than I was back then, but I'm not connected enough to see him as, like, a main eventer.
Not by himself, I have to agree.
No.
And I'm starting to see a character change in Jacob Fatu
Yeah.
that may result in him surpassing Solo and having a better connection with fans when this Bloodline story runs its course or evolves into another version.
I agree.
Now, the Tonga twins, I don't see anything there.
Yeah, I mean, they got some time to kind of grow. Yeah, we need to see some personality out of them. Right now, their personality is basically the one guy botches a lot of moves in the matches, which is funny to see sometimes, but it's also kind of like, you know. I don't know. I don't know their history, so I don't know like what major promotions they were in before WWE. But I would say it's kind of it's a big task to just immediately get thrown into the Bloodline storyline and the focus.
But you look at the shoes they have to fill, right?
So it's like
you have to fill Roman Reigns.
Yeah, I can understand that maybe it's going to take some time for us to get attached. Oh, dude, you're like froze or something. What's happening? Mr.
So did
Charles-
you.
Oh, dude,
You froze too.
we all froze for a second. Okay, we're back though. We're back. We're good. Yeah, like we were saying, it's kind of big shoes to fill when you just get thrown into the Bloodline storyline, and it's going to take some time for us to really get connected to those characters.
I mean, you could say that even like Jimmy Uso doesn't have the full connection.
No,
I
he
think
definitely
he can get
isn't,
there a little
he
bit.
isn't as over as Jay yet. He
Yeah.
can get there. He can get there. So that was Roman versus Solo. We also had a John Cena segment. And to be completely honest, this was the most predictable part of the show. Regardless if it was predictable or not, it's still John Cena. So everyone was excited to see him kicking off his retirement tour. But it kind of went exactly how most people thought, that he was going to be announcing he was going to participate in the Royal Rumble, which is good to see. And he kind of made a pretty bold statement that his goal is to go get that 17th title win this year. If they're going to use TV time with him kind of sharing that goal and sharing that mission, I have a feeling he's at least going to get opportunities for the title at some point. And
I have a bold prediction with that.
what's that?
It's a fantasy booking. I thought about this the other day.
Well,
it's
go ahead.
complex,
Go
but
ahead.
bear with me, right? So I think the typical John Cena story is that he always has to overcome. right?
Yep.
So I think he comes close, doesn't win the Rumble.
Okay.
What's his next chance? Elimination Chamber.
Yes.
Comes close, doesn't win,
Okay.
right? He gets a WrestleMania match, right? But it's not a title match.
Against
right?
Who do you think he would face if it's not for a title?
It could be Logan Paul.
Okay.
Maybe, right?
All right. Yep.
Maybe he wins, maybe he doesn't. I don't think he wins. That's fine. But there's a WrestleMania moment in general. Moving on. He goes to Money in the Bank. Comes close. Does not win. Right?
The Money in the Bank ladder match, you mean?
Yes. To win the briefcase, right?
Okay,
He has one last chance in 2025 to get an opportunity to title shot without it just being handed to him. Because John Cena, he's not just going to want WWE to just give him the match. He's got to earn it because that's his character. King of the Ring, right? Fall time frame is what they've been doing recently,
Yeah, probably
right?
a Saudi show, yeah.
He'll win it there, right?
So he'll get a title match at King of the Ring.
Yes, he'll win King of the Ring, whatever pay-per-view event that finalizes on the finals match.
The King of the Ring.
He'll win King of the Ring.
That as of
Gets
this
him a
past
title
year-
shot.
Yeah, this past year gave them a title shot at SummerSlam.
Yes,
Okay.
right. So I'm thinking that it won't be at SummerSlam, it'll be at Survivor Series. As late in the year as possible, and the reason
you think,
why...
You think he'll lose at SummerSlam? He wins King of the Ring, gets a title match, loses at SummerSlam.
No, I think the King of the Ring happens a little later, and the title match is at Survivor Series. I think King of the Ring gets pushed back a little bit. Fall.
Okay.
September-ish.
Okay.
Match
after.
at Survivor Series, wins it, he gets a 17th title, right?
Okay.
Then there has to be a rematch. There's a rematch in December. There's no pay-per-view, but it's a Saturday night main event at a thing mid to late December.
Okay.
Close to when he's done, right?
Yep.
And fantasy booking in me, this is what I would love to see, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see a rematch with CM Punk, repeat the pay-per-view, what was it, 2011, 2012,
Money in the
where
Bank.
CM Punk threatened to leave the company,
Yes.
right? And he doesn't actually leave WWE,
Yeah.
but
that was
like,
Money in the Bank 2011, I think.
and I don't know if that's a rematch with CM Punk per se, or CM Punk wins Money in the Bank and he cashes in on that match.
Okay.
And that way, it's done in a way where John Cena doesn't feel like he needs to get revenge. He said he's had his time in the sun. He's done, and it sets a feud between whoever won them, cashed in the Money in the Bank, and whoever he faced at Survivor Series. Right?
Interesting. Okay.
And I don't know who's going to face. That's the only thing, is who would he face if WWE waits until the almost end to give John Cena his last hurrah? Who does he face at Survivor Series? And I don't think it would be definitive win. I think it's one of those things where he gets a lucky win, a multi-man match where it's one of those things where John Cena's like, oh my god, everybody's down for the count. And he pins one of them with like a schoolboy pin. And he gets the lucky win, gets a 17th thing, but doesn't look like he stole it from anybody. You know what I mean? It's
Okay.
kind of just wrapped up real nice,
It's an
where it doesn't look like...
interesting idea.
Yeah. Probably won't happen that way. It
No,
probably
like,
will not happen that way at all.
Honestly, I think
A total fantasy book.
yeah,
Total fantasy
mine's
book.
a little more predictable. I do see him winning the Royal Rumble, and then here's what I end up seeing happening. I don't want to go into like Royal Rumble predictions too much here, but what I end up seeing happening, Cena wins the Rumble, but then I think between the Rumble and WrestleMania, I think he starts losing again. I think he starts losing continues his losing streak. Basically, every match that he's in, because he's not going to be on a match every week, but sporadically, the matches that he's in, he ends up losing somehow. And it almost seems like he's losing confidence. WrestleMania comes. If Cena wins the Rumble, I think we're locked in for Cena versus Cody. I don't see any other direction they need to go.
Yeah, I agree there. If that happens
WrestleMania
that
comes
way.
around, Cena and Cody. I think Cena pulls off the win. We have a WrestleMania moment. John Cena starts a title reign, his 17th title reign. And I'll be completely honest with you. I think that they would have Cena have that title reign all through the rest of his retirement tour until December. And I think during that time, I think eventually we're going to see Cena turn heel. Maybe during his title reign.
I mean, that's a fantasy booking by you. It's possible.
I think, like, during his title reign, he's going to use some cheap tactic to win. And I think he's going to go full on heel persona. Something we haven't ever seen him do. But I think this final year, he's going to do it just like that one time. And then I think in December, he's finally going to lose it. More than likely to like an up and coming. I mean, the thing is, like, I can't predict where we're at that point. Will Gunther still be champion? Because I think Gunther would be a good person for him to lose it to. Will Braun Breaker be ready for a main event push by then? I don't know. But if he was, then he would be a good person for Cena to lose it to. I don't know if they would have Cody lose it to Cena and then Cody have a redemption arc and come back and win it. I could see it happening. They might go that route if they are that invested in Cody.
What about R-Truth?
What, little Jimmy going to help him?
Yeah.
Little Jimmy's going to help him win that one? I don't know about that, dude. I don't know about your fantasy booking there, dude.
I'm kidding. I wanted to see how you'd react. Obviously, that's not a legit circumstance.
Maybe they could do something with Kevin Owens. I mean, he seems to be really getting himself as like a top heel in the company. Maybe they could do something with Kevin Owens. I wouldn't mind.
Isn't that how he won his first U.S. title? Wasn't that against John Cena in an open challenge? Am I misremembering that?
He beat Cena in an open. He might have. It might have been for that. It might have been an open challenge.
Yeah, remember John Cena years ago was doing the whole open challenge. He had the U.S. title, was doing an open challenge like every week.
Won the belt.
I thought that's how Kevin Owens won it from him.
I know he came out in an open challenge. I don't know if it was for a title. But I know Kevin Owens did end up beating Cena very early on his main roster.
Yes, yeah.
Roster run. I don't know. That's going to be something we're going to have to wait and see. Let's wait till we get closer to the Rumble to like formally put in our real predictions there. So what else we had going on Raw? We had Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley. Apparently this was the match to end the feud finally. And in my opinion, we did get some closure there. Not just because Rhea Ripley won. For those that didn't know, Rhea Ripley did win the match. But I think it was a definitive win. There was a little shenanigans that they tried to do, but Rhea Ripley persevered, made it through it. I think it was a proper end to the storyline. But my question is, what do they do with Liv next? Because now that the storyline seemingly end with her and Rhea Ripley, where do they go with Liv Morgan next? Do they somehow... I know that they're kind of teasing some sort of bad partnership between her and Finn Balor in the Judgment Day. Do we see the Judgment Day kind of split apart? Is there going to be some tension between her and Raquel Rodriguez? I don't know. But it's hard to imagine that they're going to just have Liv with the title 1 week, lose the title, and then just not do anything with her after that.
Or maybe she gets a few weeks off. Notice we didn't see Solo.
It could be.
Sikoa, right? On Smackdown.
Could be. But it seemed Rhea Ripley moved her way out of that feud. And we'll see what's coming up next for her. My honest opinion, they should move Liv to SmackDown. I think SmackDown needs some female talent. New female talent.
Yeah.
Instead of... Because it seems like they're pulling from the same pool all the time. I feel like SmackDown could really use Liv.
Raw's pool doesn't have that much either. I think that they need to start building up new talent.
Do some sort of trade. Yeah. Maybe they could put Mia Yim over on Raw and she can have her unlimited title matches over there or something. Obviously, they can't split up Bianca and Naomi, or else I'd say put Bianca on Raw. I think she'd do well over there. But, yeah, we'll have to see what happens with Liv. After the match, though, Rhea Ripley was celebrating with the title, and The Undertaker came out for some reason. He came out on his motorcycle. They actually paid for the rights to play the Kid Rock song. Also, who was a Donald Trump supporter. Maybe Donald Trump endorsed Raw on Netflix this week. But they did have the rights. They played the American Badass while The Undertaker came out. Did a lap around the ring on the bike, and then he kind of came up to the stage where Rhea Ripley was. They kind of did a couple photo ops together, holding up the title. Basically, Undertaker giving her the nod of approval, which was kind of cool to see.
Well, I don't think it was necessarily needed. I think she was already top of the food chain in the women's. I don't think you needed that nod.
They needed Undertaker.
They wanted star power.
Yeah, they wanted
is really
Undertaker
what it was
for the crowd, have a little moment.
Yeah,
it is what it is. You know, you can't blame them for wanting to have as many stars as possible on the show. I wish they could have fit him in a little bit differently, but it worked. You know, I would have liked for Rhea to jump on the back of the bike and like ride off with him. I thought that would have been cooler than just standing there like staring at the camera. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of a cool moment. It was cool to see the Undertaker. The fans seemed to like it, so no problems there. Then we had Jey Uso versus Drew McIntyre. This match surprised me. For the life of me, I did not see Drew losing this match. I don't know where they're going with this. Drew McIntyre is like an anomaly to me. He's like a mystery. What is he going to do at WrestleMania? I see nothing on the horizon for him. And you know what? Last year, I didn't see anything either until CM Punk got injured. Then all of a sudden, he was just kind of molded his way into a storyline with Seth and a title opportunity. But I feel like he's kind of in the same position this year. Like, I see no top feud for Drew McIntyre. Like, he's on this like whole thing where he's going to take out everybody that was ever involved with the original bloodline. And I don't see him versus Roman as a WrestleMania match unless they can really spice things up between them two. That would be the only way.
I have to agree with that.
I really don't see that being a WrestleMania main event.
So the rumor I'm hearing is that if that transfer window is still open, he could move to SmackDown. Yeah. And I think, as weird as this sounds, he might make for a good team up with Kevin Owens for a little while. And that opens the door for a few matches.
Maybe.
And that opens the door for an eventual split between the two, because obviously their egos are both massive, and one of them is going to screw over the other down the line. So that creates some possibilities.
Something I see, and it's kind of like a demotion for Drew, so I don't wish this upon him, but maybe they could somehow move him into something with LA Knight, because obviously they're going to want to do LA Knight something at WrestleMania. So maybe they could have a Drew McIntyre LA Knight match.
But is the story over with his, revenge against everybody with the bloodline? Everybody who backed Roman after he came back?
Obviously, I think he's going to do something more with Jey Uso. I don't think that's over with.
Jimmy.
Jimmy, that'd be like moving backwards. He's already on Jey. Why would he move back to Jimmy?
I mean, I'm not mentioning in any order.
Yeah, he already took out Sami Zayn.
Yeah.
So now he's on the Jey. The next logical step would be to Roman. And then maybe they could do that, but I just don't see that as a WrestleMania match.
Or does he go back to Solo Sikoa? But that's kind of weird, right? It's kind of an enemy of my enemy's my friend. Is where they're going with this at the moment.
That's a possibility, because obviously they might want to do something with Solo WrestleMania, so maybe they have Drew do a face turn and like go after Solo in the new bloodline.
Because he kind of hinted at like Solo gets the free pass for now. That's the way I interpreted. Like Drew is like not hunting Solo yet.
Yeah,
he wants to finish his business with everybody else, and then he's mad at Solo because Solo basically cost him everything in 2024.
Yeah. So
actually, prior to that, it goes back to Clash at the Castle in what, 2023?
Absolutely, yeah. You might be onto something there. I could see, like, if they do it correctly, they could get Solo and Drew McIntyre in a match. It wouldn't be a main event, but it would be a featured match at WrestleMania. I could see that.
Because honestly, outside of Cody, Drew McIntyre came the closest to defeating and dethroning Roman throughout his reign.
Yes.
And the only thing that really helped Roman in Clash at the Castle was Solo.
You're right.
Drew had that match pretty close.
I think you're on to something there. I didn't think of that.
How they get to that storyline, because Solo is obviously heel.
They got like 4
and
months.
I don't know. How do you get him? Yeah. Who turns face? Because we've said ourselves, heel versus heel never really works that well unless somebody's on that precipice of turning face.
Yeah.
And I don't see Solo connecting with the crowd to turn face.
They got some
I
time.
see it
think
with McIntyre, but there needs to be some change to McIntyre's character
yeah.
for the fans to buy a face turn. It won't sound believable.
I think it'll be an interesting next couple of months. So after the Drew match, we already touched on the Hulk Hogan embarrassment. Hulk Hogan came out, got booed, got a Luke Lorne reaction. Embarrassing moment for Hulk Hogan, embarrassing moment for WWE to an extent. It is what it is. We went through that. Then we had CM Punk versus Seth Rollins. Now, this was perfect choice to end the show. This was, in my opinion, this was a WrestleMania caliber match on Netflix. So, great way to end the show. Very surprised with the outcome. I did not think they would have CM Punk win. I did not think they would have him win clean. You saw what my prediction was last week. I was walking on a line there. I had a very, very weird prediction. Didn't come true yet. Still could happen.
There's time. There's still time. You never know.
It's still something still could happen there. The last thing I expected was a clean victory. I did not expect that, and I did not expect it to come from CM Punk. I was almost 100% certain that Seth would win their first match. Because, trust me, this is not the last time we'll see them two go at it.
I agree.
I'm sure we're going to see them go at it multiple times and probably in some sort of grudge match at some point or another.
I think the bigger takeaway from this is, were they both face versus face, or do you see one of them starting to turn? And I don't know which one it is. And I think WWE's testing the market, because both are very good at being both face and both heel. Both have had very good careers at both ends of that spectrum.
Well, what I'll say with the promo that CM Punk cut after the match, if I had to guess, he would be the one going heel.
You don't think it's Seth?
No. I think Seth, if anything, had sympathy after that match. But I think the promo that CM Punk cut after the match, saying that he's the best in the world, everyone that said he wasn't shit. I think that he kind of cut a very heated promo. Wasn't necessarily like a heel promo, but it had some ego to it. It had some fire to it that I think we'll see more. And I think we might be getting a CM Punk heel run soon. Maybe.
Yeah, I think either of them could be due. It could work on either side. And I think they were testing the waters with that match to see how the crowd reacted, especially with the promo the week prior. Mm-hmm. You both could get behind either of them. They both have valid points in reality.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most unpredictable of what the next step they will take in their feud going up to WrestleMania.
I think maybe we'll start getting some information on that on Monday. Maybe we'll see. I heard that Seth might have actually hurt his knee or something during that match too. So I hope not. I hope he didn't get injured. That would kind of suck.
Yeah, I know. Like when he took time off with WrestleMania and all that, did he ever actually get true surgery, or did he just try to do the traditional?
I don't think he got
rest
surgery.
and rehab.
Yeah, I don't think he got surgery till after WrestleMania.
Okay, but he did end up.
I think so.
Fixing it, or do you think he just rehabbed it to a point where he could do it without surgery? Because I don't think he got traditional surgery. I think he just kind of rested.
He was back a little bit before SummerSlam.
Yeah, I think when you get surgery in your knee, you're out for 6 months.
Yeah.
He was only gone for like 2.
Yeah.
So I think he might have just rehabbed without getting surgery, seeing if he could do that and not be gone for long.
Yeah.
But that only buys you so much time. If he has an ongoing condition with his knee, you can only keep doing that process of just rehabbing so often until you have to bite the bullet.
Yeah, he's going to have to take a year off.
And is he inching towards not being full-time competitor anymore? Right? He's not as young as he used to be.
Yeah. Not sure. We're going to have to see what happens with all of that. But that is how Raw on Netflix ended. There was a post-show press conference, and I watched the press conference. There wasn't too many newsworthy notes on that. John Cena took questions for about a good 10 minutes. He just kind of emphasized that. One thing he did say that I found interesting was he is doing the retirement tour this year, and he actually gave you an exact number of dates that he has signed up for as of right now. Who knows if they ever extended or whatever, but he said 36 dates. That doesn't mean 36 matches. That doesn't mean 36 just appearances. I think 36 is the number, and then who knows, maybe out of the 36, 15 of those are matches, 20 of those are matches, who knows. But he said
that's about averaging about 3 appearances a month.
Yeah. But you
3
never
appearances
know, like,
of some kind.
They could make, they have some handshake deals, be like, hey, can you show up on SmackDown? Hey, can you show up? They might add on to that. I don't think they would add on matches to that. I think they have a set number of matches that he's going to do. But I think appearance-wise, they could be like, hey, can you make it to this show, whatever.
Is he free agent? Is he exclusive to any show for this year or no, in your opinion? Because I don't think they've said one way or the other.
They didn't mention it, so I would assume he's a free agent. They didn't mention it. He's got, like, the Brock Lesnar effect.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, too.
But, yeah, that's what we ended Raw on Netflix with, which was a pretty good show, I thought. Some people had their opinions about it. And, yeah, I thought that the show went really well. I'm interested to see what's going to happen next week. And they have a couple matches announced, and we'll talk about that at the end of the show. But one thing I did want to talk about here is with Hulk Hogan's new, I wouldn't call it a heel persona, but his new, basically the fans' reaction to him. I had this idea. I posted it on, somebody posed a question on X, formerly Twitter. And I had the idea of Hulk Hogan, I don't know if you want to call it teaming up, but partnering Hulk Hogan up with the newly heel New Day. And a lot of people had some very interesting opinions about that. Some people thought that it was a great idea. Other people thought it was a terrible idea. There isn't really an in-between there. So I don't know if it would ever happen. I don't think WWE would go that far. And I
think your prediction from last week with the CM Punk Seth Rollins has a more of a chance of happening than this Hulk Hogan thing.
The problem with it is, first, I don't think the WWE would even want to go there and touch that subject. And second,
would the New Day even feel comfortable?
That's what I'm saying. More importantly, I don't know if the New Day would even want to work with him.
Yeah.
But I think
you have to throw a ton of money at them to be like, look, honestly, this guy
I don't
really...
even think you need to do that. I honestly think, like, if WWE came to them and asked them to do it, I think they would, because they're company men. But I don't think they would want to, and I think that would translate on television that they don't really want to be in that situation.
They're doing it for the money, and I think that would be not a good approach.
Yeah.
Even though it would make for, like, good television.
Well, that's what I'm going to say.
Is that really the best?
Fantasy booking-wise, I think if they team themselves up with Hulk Hogan, and they, like, kind of proclaimed Hulk Hogan as their new Big E, I think that would give them more heat than Dominic Mysterio. I think the fans would totally eat that up, and they would go nuts, especially if they said that he was more valuable than Big E. I think that they would that would be them totally turning on the fans, and I don't think they could ever find their way back from that, to be honest with you. I don't know if they could ever switch back to babyface if they ever did that.
I mean, you know what? The closest I think they could ever come is a backstage segment where, like, they just bump into Hulk Hogan.
Hey, brother!
and there's, like, a shaking of hands, and that's the extent of it. And maybe you don't need any promotion behind it.
I think even
but
that
just
would,
that.
I think even that would.
That's even that far.
That would just give him a shovel's worth of heat right there. Just them bumping into him and just having a friendly conversation. Give him.
I still don't think it's going to happen. I actually think that WWE is going to go in the opposite direction, and I think they're not going to have him on television at all, and just show his commercials, and that's the extent of the partnership.
Honestly, like, that's just fantasy.
Because they probably inked a deal where they kind of have to eat the turd, and they're obligated to probably promote his brand to some extent digitally for some period of time. So they're probably going to have to do, marketing on the websites, and they're going to have to do his commercial.
Maybe they'll
And
just
that's
need
it.
to not have Hulk Hogan on the promotion
On
it,
television.
and just
Yeah.
have American Made promote it, and just be like, oh,
Yeah.
we're drinking Hulk Hogan's real American beer, not actually.
They
have
could
Hulk
do
Hogan
that.
there. Or maybe
That would be an interesting concept.
Maybe they
That's a
need
lot
to
of
go like real old school and like not have Hulk Hogan there physically, but have like a cartoon Hulk Hogan promoting the beer. Just...
No, but you did hint at something. You know, real heat for the American Made tag team could
Have
be
Hulk Hogan, yeah.
some loose partnership there.
Yeah, Hulk Hogan like has a beer with them after their matches or something. That could be interesting, I guess.
But I don't think it's going to happen. I don't
It'd
think
be
that there's going to be
cheap.
any direct link between WWE characters and Hulk Hogan. I think they're just going to do
TV, yeah.
the commercials because they have to, and when whatever length of time they've signed a deal for, when that's done, they're done with him. Especially for as long as they are with Netflix. I'm sure Netflix is a little butthurt about it.
Yeah,
And
probably
they're
thought
ready to
it'd be a
cut bait
different
as soon as they
reaction.
can.
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
probably expecting a different reaction. But you
Yeah,
know what?
they're
They
probably
got their-
legally bound for
they
the
got
moment.
their money, so you know
Yeah.
that's the most important thing. Moving on from one bad thing to another here. I wanted to talk about AEW streaming deal with Netflix, or not Netflix. Oh God, not with Netflix, with Max. Could you imagine if AEW was on Netflix? Netflix would go bankrupt. AEW streaming deal with Max. We've talked positively about the Netflix's streaming deal with WWE. Now we're at the polar opposite here with AEW on Max. Well, to start it off, like, we have no idea how AEW is performing on Max. They refuse to release any numbers. Kevin Laundry over on TikTok here says Raw was both good and bad. I somewhat agree with you there, Kevin. Raw had its good and bad moments, so I agree with you partly on that. So the AEW streaming deal with Max, we have no idea what the numbers were, but there's a couple things to note. For one, AEW's been streaming on Max a little bit longer than WWE's been on Netflix, and AEW did not reach the top 10 on Max. Streamed product on Max. They weren't even in the top 10. They streaming sports, streaming anything. AEW is not top 10 on Max. And the one thing, my biggest concern is Max isn't really promoting AEW at all. I think, like, yesterday when I added this to things that we were going to talk about today, just yesterday they finally added AEW to their Twitter bio or X bio. So they're at least acknowledging that AEW is on Max. But any of their promotional video packages, AEW is not in there. Any type of promotional stuff on the internet, AEW is not mentioned. It's very odd. Because Netflix, they're talking about Raw all over the place. They changed their whole account to have Raw as a banner and everything. And Max is just kind of like, they basically put AEW on there and they're like, okay, let's see what happens. And let's be completely clear. Like WB Discovery, Max, or whatever, they spent a lot of money to have AEW in a new television deal. I forget how much it is a year, but they are getting over $100 million a year on their television deal and their streaming deal with Max. Why Max wouldn't promote AEW is puzzling to me, because you would think they'd want a return on their investment, wouldn't you? And eventually,
Well, and yeah, it gets more complicated. So as a result of that deal, two things have happened.
Yeah.
Rampage is canceled.
Yes.
And they have some of these, you know, like how WWE Saturday Night Main Event, right? AEW is like Battle of the Belts and a few other things.
Yeah,
all those shirts are canceled.
Yep.
Right? And then, additionally, AEW has to be very careful when they try to market the indie events that are not part of the Max deal, right?
Yeah.
So part of AEW's secret sauce, if you want to call it that, is their openness to, you know, interacting with the indie events, and their partnership is very close, closer than any of the other competition out there. But now their hands are tied. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, they're getting a nice payday from Max, but all the things that made AEW prior to that, they're a little bit diluted as a result. So, you know, and I'm not trying to knock AEW specifically, but we'll have to see long term was this benefit worth the risk?
It's a very
It's a little unknown.
It makes AEW look selfish because, like, basically AEW will come in and they can bring on talent from, let's say, independent wrestling sources and anything. They can bring them on their television show. And AEW does allow their talent to work independent shows, but with their new deal with Max, they're not allowed to mention that. So Kenny
They
Omega,
can't mention Wrestle Dream and all
Kenny
that other
Omega
stuff.
premiering his first match back at being at Wrestle Dream, they weren't allowed to promote that.
Yeah.
And Kenny Omega is like one of their biggest stars. They weren't allowed to promote his involvement at Wrestle Dream. So it's kind of like a one-sided thing. Like AEW, they will loan their talent out to go on these other shows, but they're not allowed to promote it. But if let's say Kenny Omega's opponent from Wrestle Dream comes to AEW, then AEW, they can take that opportunity and use it. But they're not allowed to promote any type of streaming service or program that's not streaming on Max, that they don't have kind of their hand in the pot of. And that's a little bit unfortunate. I wonder if AEW can find a way around that to maybe be able to promote that kind of stuff online instead of on their television shows. I don't know. But they really should try to find some sort of level playing ground there. Because just not saying anything at all, it kind of confuses the audience a little bit.
I agree. We'll have to see long term how this nets out.
Yeah, maybe they need to rework that deal where Max is promoting AEW a little more. AEW has a little.
It
more
might be
freedom.
tough. Who has the real control? It isn't AEW, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's Max.
Absolutely, and AEW would never want to admit that, not publicly anyway.
No, and I don't mean that as a negative shot. Max is an extremely large company, right?
Yeah.
Like the WWE's partner with Netflix. Do you think it was the WWE show and they were like, "This is how it's going to go down, Netflix. You pay us the money or else." No, I mean
no, I
Netflix
don't
is a
think
powerhouse
WWE
as well,
no.
and
I
I'm
think-
sure they had a nice seat at that table
Yeah.
when they said, "Hey, WWE, we're paying you $5 billion. We want a couple of things."
Yeah, Netflix.
No.
I mean, WWE kind of went in there with an answer like, here's 30 years of programming. This is what Raw can bring to you.
Yeah.
And then Netflix might have had a couple things like, well, we want to do this a little differently. We want to present it this way, and WWE kind of. Not
You're going to tell Netflix
standardize.
no when
Yeah.
they're writing a $5 billion check?
Yeah. If it's
No.
if it's minuscule things, they probably pick their battles. I'm sure if
Yeah.
they were like, oh, well, we don't want it to be a wrestling show. We want it to be a talent competition or something.
No,
Then
Netflix
they
I
might
don't
have
think
been
would,
like,
would
yeah.
change direction like
But,
that.
yeah.
But controlling certain talent, being available in certain...
Oh yeah, I'm
programs?
sure if Netflix said we want Roman Reigns on Raw, guarantee you he would be on Raw the next.
That's how Fox's deal went down initially.
Yeah, that's pretty much what would happen there. So let's move on from the AEW deal with Max into the AEW with Dynamite. So the first thing I noticed right off the top of the bat, they did not use "I'm So Excited" for the opening song. And that kind of, they actually didn't even have an opening song. They just kind of went right
Yes.
into some action. But I was disappointed. I wanted to hear "I'm so excited." I wanted to hear it again. I wanted them to double down and use it. So, no, they didn't use it again. And who knows if we'll hear it again. If we don't hear it again, I got a problem with that because they spent a lot of money to use that song. If you spent that money, you might as well do it. Find a different way to use it if you don't want it to be the opening theme.
Maybe they did it just that week because they realized I had a lot of competition with Raw on Netflix the first time, a 3-hour Smackdown. You know what I mean?
How would that song help with that? It's like,
Well,
oh, we're
no
getting our
offense.
ass kicked by
It's-
WWE.
it's
I'm
AEW.
so excited. Like,
It's AEW. I think they're
are
trying
they excited to
different
get
things
their
see what
ass
sticks.
kicked? Is that what's
Yeah.
going on there? How's that going to help them?
I don't know.
Is that the little floaty they used when they were falling off the Titanic? The
Yeah.
I'm So Excited record? Okay, so they didn't use the I'm So Excited to open the show. And then we had Will Ospreay versus Buddy Matthews. And the match
You mean
was-
Buddy Murphy?
we're going to get into that. The match was what you would expect from Will Ospreay match. Pretty much some really, really flashy moves. A lot of no-selling. A lot of, I'm going to pile drive you. You're going to get back up. I'm going to grab your hand. I'm going to jump to the top rope. I'm going to flip back on my feet. Pose like a superhero. And then I'm going to reverse
Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah, reverse everything you do. I'm going to do 50 million flips. Probably fall into the crowd over the rail. I can almost predict it like off the top of my head. Will Ospreay ended up winning the match, and then after the match, here's an issue I have with Will Ospreay. I think he thinks he's a little bit bigger of a star than he actually is.
Yeah, I agree.
He's got an ego. So after the match, he's acting like he's Hulk Hogan, passing the torch to The Rock, and he's like, "Oh, Brother Matthews, you had a great match. I see you as a future
How long has he
star."
been with AEW, Will Ospreay? What, under a year?
About a year,
Yeah. He's got a little bit to learn there.
Yeah, and he's talking to Buddy Matthews as if Buddy Matthews is like a kid just getting into the business, when Buddy Matthews has been in the bit. I've known of Buddy Murphy a lot longer than Will Ospreay. I'll be honest with you. Maybe I'm just like not in the know of some of these independent guys, but Will Ospreay talking to Buddy Matthews like he's a little kid getting fresh in the business is kind of ridiculous to me.
Yeah. That felt a little weird.
But the main thing that I remembered from that was we found out that Will Ospreay does pay attention to WWE because he called him Buddy Murphy, which was his name in WWE. He said, "Buddy Murphy, anytime if you have win a title, you will be my first match," or something like that. I don't know. Like, I guess AEW fans, they might eat that kind of stuff up. I just thought it was cheesy. I thought it was kind of dumb, and I was just over it. So, whatever there. They had a casino gauntlet. I felt was a bit underwhelming. You had some decent names in there. You had Ricochet. You had Ricochet actually came out to Swerve's song, and then they kind of switched it to Ricochet's. I guess Ricochet's kind of being a troll a little bit. And I'm not talking about the troll dolls with the diamond in their belly and the hair sticking up. Ricochet doesn't have hair, so whatever. But he was kind of trolling the fans a little bit. Will Hobbs ended up winning, which I'm kind of for that. I like Will Hobbs. Definitely could use some character work, but I think his presentation is very WWE-esque. I think he would do very well in WWE someday. I hope to see that happen. But we'll see. I believe he's going to be taking on Jon Moxley next week now.
Yes.
I'm sure that will be a clusterfuck, but hopefully Will Hobbs will look good in the match in the end. Another notable thing was Jeff Jarrett was in the Casino Gauntlet Battle Royal, ended up not getting the win there, but afterwards Jarrett was cutting a little bit of a promo and MGF came out. And MGF offered to kind of offer his services to help Jeff Jarrett in his expedition to win gold in 2025 in AEW. I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting these two to cross paths, and maybe there's a little bit of interest there. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure.
You think AEW has a plan with this, or that was just some shit thrown together?
Honestly, I think that they're trying to replicate the Sting retirement tour from last year. And they're trying to be like, oh, Jeff Jarrett, he's also a legend in the business. And he is.
No, I get that. But the MJF involvement, do you think that was just, like, random? Or do you think they have a long-term plan between the two of them?
I don't know. I don't know if they're going to really run with this, or if this is just MGF's way of kind of weaseling into a program with Jarrett and maybe do like a one-off match or something, or if they are really going to have MJF be mentoring him to getting a title. Who knows? So my opinion on this, the whole thing with Jeff Jarrett, I think this will lead up to him getting a title, but I don't think it'll be the heavyweight title. I think it'll be like a TNT title. I don't know if he'll beat good old Danny Garcia for it, but
I don't know. Yeah.
You know what? Now, off the top of my head right now, let's say MGF, he gets himself back into something with Danny Garcia. MGF wins the TNT title from Danny Garcia. then maybe we could see Jarrett beat MJF for the title. With shenanigans, of course. We're not going to see
Of
Jarrett
course.
get a clean.
Well, AEW, everything's shenanigans.
Yeah. You might see Tony Schiavone like throw a banana peel in the ring and fucking MJF trip over it, and somehow Jarrett just randomly falls in a pinning position on top of him. Who knows? But yeah, so they hinted at MJF, Jarrett kind of teaming up, MJF helping Jarrett get some gold in 2025. Jarrett pretty much made it clear that he's not interested. But we'll see what happens, because the fact that they even had the promo tells me that something might happen at some point. And then Kenny Omega. The main event was Kenny Omega returning. He had a promo in the ring, talked about his diverticulitis. And then pretty much there was a beatdown going on with Don Callis and his family. Don Fallis and his family. And
beating down Kenny Omega?
Yeah, and pretty much at the end of the day, they announced Kenny Omega versus Brian Cage for next week. Because I think Will Ospreay came out, did a little save for Kenny, and then they announced Brian Cage versus Kenny Omega next week. Predictable booking in my mind. I see Kenny Omega obviously getting a win over Brian Cage.
And more beatdowns after that.
Yeah, like, I don't know.
I'm okay with predictable booking in this situation because Kenny's been out of the ring for a while, so they gotta really, like, just go back to basics for a few matches to get him back into the swing of things.
Yeah. Brian Cage, I think, he has a great look. I can't really say I appreciate his talents in the ring all the time. And when I say he's a great look, I'm not saying that it's a legal great look. I think that he's doped up on steroids. He's somebody that we'll never see in WWE. I think if he even peed in a cup, the kelp will probably melt and turn into something from like Gremlins or something like that. I don't think that it would ever happen. But Kenny Omega versus Brian Cage, that'll be something interesting to look forward to coming up next week on Dynamite.
I think there's also more with Will Ospreay and Osmegma. You know, I think that there's going to be...
They have a long-standing feud, and I think they'll probably run it back again at some point. Who knows when? I don't know. What major pay-per-view do they have coming up? Because I would assume those two would run it back at a major pay-per-view. They're not going to do that on Dynamite. Omega and Ospreay, Omega, and there's a couple matches that we would like. I mean, obviously you'd want to see Omega and Ricochet again at some point. Omega and Swerve. There's a lot of matches Kenny Omega needs to kind of get involved in AEW because since he's been out for so long. But that kind of concluded Dynamite for last week, and kind of I don't really know how I felt about the show. It is what it is. Hopefully they could pick up some momentum soon, because I really like it. Just kind of falls flat with me with AEW, and I hate saying that because I like it that we have an alternative to WWE, but it's like they're missing so many pitches here. They're not hitting home runs anymore, and it's frustrating, I guess is the easiest way to put it. But moving on from the AEW, so last week we had a Mr. Chong's toy chest. He showed off some rare and unique WWE wrestling merchandise. This week we're not doing a Mr. Chong's toy test. We're going to be doing a segment that I call "And the World Keeps Spinning." I don't have like a little flashy new screen like we had for toy chest. Not yet anyway. Maybe someday I'll make one. But here, I kind of want to talk about things that are a little bit on the wrestling realm, but more on like the internet opinion realm, like the stuff that I see people talking about on the internet. And to start off, right off the bat here, we're going to be doing a video that was posted on the internet hours ago here, and let me just get this set up really quick, and let me share it with you too. Sorry about that. Hold on one second. I gotta figure out a way to get this to switch around a little quicker. There we go. So this here is a content creator. His name is Mr. Teshk. Mr. Teshk here. And he was live reacting to a pay-per-view happening last night on an independent show. I'm not sure what the independent show was. But let's take a look at his reaction here at this show. It looked like it was some sort of like almost like a Royal Rumble type event going on. And this is Mr. Teshk's reaction to somebody that was entering the ring here.
What? Shut up! What? That's AJ. No way!
Okay, so that right there is Top Dollar from WWE. Top Dollar, who was in, what was the group that they were in on Smackdown? What was that group called? It was basically like a rap group.
I forget, but they had B-Fab, and they had Adonis.
Swerve Strickland, Adonis.
Yeah.
They were mid-card at best. And Top Dollar's career in WWE kind of fell flat, literally, when he there was a match that he had, and he tried to jump over the top rope. He tripped and basically fell to the floor like a fish out of water. And let's just say, like, he didn't impress anybody in WWE. He's kind of like somebody that you kind of knew was on the chopping block pretty quickly. And yeah, this is this guy's reaction to him.
Holy shit! AJ Francis in Reality of Wrestling.
So the show is called Reality of Wrestling.
Are you kidding me?
I think the reality of wrestling is that AJ Francis isn't in the best of shape.
Yeah. So
That's the reality.
let's touch on this a little bit here. So this guy, his reaction to AJ Francis, Top Dollar from WWE, was as if The Rock just came out on Raw. Like, it's a problem that we have on the internet these days. Like, people want clout, people want attention, and they're overreacting to things. Like, I wish that there was more natural reactions. I wish there was more natural, like, conversations about wrestling on the internet instead of these overreactions, fangirling, just being absolutely not in reality. Even though that show is called Reality of Wrestling, that reaction wasn't reality to me. That was somebody trying to get I don't know, like, maybe Reality of Wrestling would have retweeted his reaction or something. Like, I understand it more when people, like, overreact to WWE stuff because then they want to be on the little video package or whatever. But this guy, like, I don't understand what he's like. Does he want to follow back from Top Dollar? Does he want to meet him at McDonald's to get lunch? Like, what the hell?
You know what? You bet your bottom dollar.
Yeah. It literally is the bottom dollar. Like, okay, I'll give here. What would you do if my reaction to, let's say, this, my reaction to this was the way he reacted to Top Dollar? Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my! I'm so excited! I'm so excited! I'm so excited, guys! I don't get it. I don't understand it. We gotta keep things a little real here. I understand that we're content creators and we're trying to, like, hype people up, kind of get people excited. I'm so excited for the wrestling product, but tone it down a notch. Somebody like Top Dollar, you know, you'd be like, oh wow, this is awesome. Top Dollar's here. Not, you know. Tune it down a little bit. I've never heard of this guy. You know what? Maybe mission accomplished for him. People are talking about
because you just gave him his 15 minutes.
People are talking about him. Not that having 15 minutes on Unexpected Wrestling is going to do anything for him, but
you never know.
Congratulations, dude. Mission accomplished. You got people on the internet talking about you. So maybe he outsmarted us all. Congratulations. Okay, so let's move on from that. And let's talk about. Oh, and by the way, and the world keeps spinning regarding internet reactions to low-level talent. Sorry, top dollar, but that's what I consider low-level talent. Let's also take a look at WWE deciding to rerun NXT New Year's Evil at 8 o'clock on a Saturday, which is the same time as AEW Collision. Do we think that's on purpose, or do you think it's just coincidental?
Both. I think it was only on purpose because of The Rock.
To be fair, CW, the president of CW actually commented on this, and they said that the reason that they're rerunning it is because of the fires that happened in California, or was it Los Angeles, and because that people in the Los Angeles area did not get to catch the show because the fires were literally happening as it happened. If I was part of those fires, the last thing I'd be worried about is fucking CW programming of NXT. But maybe there are some people that did want to see the show that bad.
And it was The Rock. I mean, let's see if it becomes a pattern.
Yes.
Let's see if it becomes a pattern that every Saturday they just re-air NXT. Because they haven't done it in the past.
If they get really good numbers, they might do it. Obviously, the time slot's open. So
is that their top performing show on that network?
That I'm not sure. I know that they're happy with the numbers. It could be. It very well could be. I'm not totally sure, so I don't want to comment on that. But yeah, I don't know. Like maybe part of it is true that they're doing it for the people in Los Angeles area that had to miss it, and maybe they're also testing the waters to see what kind of rating they'll pull on a Saturday night at 8, because there is already a wrestling product. AEW Collision is airing at that time slot. So maybe CW's kind of like, hey, we'll run a rerun and see how that goes. If they get good ratings, they might.
We're getting a renaissance with that. Like, for so long, when we grew up, it was pretty much well known that Saturday evenings were dead for television, right? With the exception of sports, right? Like actual live sports.
Yeah.
Saturday night, you don't air new programming. That was just almost unheard of.
Yeah,
and now you're seeing a resurgence of... Yeah, and you're seeing a resurgence of, like, Saturday Night Main Event. That's coming back. Now, it's not every Saturday. It's a handful of times a year.
They used to do it... Pretty much the purpose of Saturday Night Main Event used to be because it was weeks that Saturday Night Live wasn't on.
Yeah.
So they would fill it with Saturday Night Main Event. I'm not sure if they do that anymore. Now it's just kind of like WWE has a programming slot or whatever. A couple times a year. I don't think Saturday Night Main Event would ever work as like a permanent thing. I think it has to be every special presentations.
Yes. Handful of times a year, and that's it.
But, I mean, from the numbers that NXT at CW expect, they might get decent numbers for CW on a Saturday night time slot at 8 o'clock. Maybe
it remains to be seen. Yeah.
Maybe in the long run, maybe they're going to see the rerun, see what kind of ratings it gets, and maybe what we talked about last week, CW will look into an all-women's show on a Saturday night at 8. There you go.
You actually have something like that on a different network.
Yeah.
I think it's called Women of Wrestling, and it's on, I think, at like 11 on Saturdays. I forget what network it's on, but there's programming for that.
Yeah. I really don't know if they should do like a 2-hour time slot for a women's only show, but I think a 1 hour would be a sweet spot. And I think CW Saturday night at 8, all women's show, I'd watch it. I'd record it on DVR. I'd watch it every week and see what happens. I don't know. I guess it would really depend on what their ratings are like that they do in the replay, because then they might have to seriously think about doing, hey, let's maybe do a live show or at least a pre-taped show with new content. I wouldn't be totally opposed to that. And the last thing that we are going to talk about with the world and it keeping spinning. So we both caught a little bit of Collision last night. We don't normally run Collision results or anything on this show, but we both saw something that was a little disturbing to us that happened on Collision, And I'm gonna have a video clip to show everybody here. Our good friend, Mr. Chris Jericho, he didn't put on the best performance, in my opinion, last night. And maybe we can't blame it all on Mr. Jericho, but let's let you guys see what you think of this performance right here, and let us know what your thoughts are.
Close to it. Oh, well done.
This is the end of the match. I'm not going to run the whole match. We're not going to do that.
What bravery on the part of El Nueve.
So, obviously, towards the end of the match here, Jericho going for the belt, trying to find a shady way to win.
Calculation, perhaps.
Jericho's got the belt.
Looks like we're moving in slow motion here. He missed with the belt, takes a backdrop, pushes the belt out of the way for some reason. Goes to the ref, pulls his shirt. The ref falls down as if Jericho maced him. Does that on top. Does something with his hands. It looks like Dax was supposed to get hit with the belt, but he obviously didn't. But he's acting like he did.
Something happened.
And the ref is still knocked down from getting his shirt pulled. Dax says, okay, now he got hit with the belt. Okay.
I would say he hit himself with the belt.
Yeah.
That did not look like he got hit.
Maybe Jericho was blind at the end of the match and just didn't see what he was doing anymore.
With the belt.
What? I don't know. That could,
So he got smacked with the belt.
1, 2.
And no, the match did not end there.
Not yet.
Well, despite
And this was the main
punch
event of
the
Collision,
official
by
Bryce
the way.
Remsburg
Main
able
event.
to see the shoulder come up at the last second.
Jericho looking like a
Without
shell
anybody
of his
else
former
at ringside,
self
this one
here.
has
He's
been
looking
chaotic.
very
Absolutely.
And difficult to officiate. Oh!
There
good finishing move, though. I'll give him that.
1,
Now the match ends. Very, very much a clusterfuck at the end there, in my honest opinion. What are we doing? How is this going to help AEW get back on the right track? That was not a good performance by Jericho. Dax Hardwood is a tag team wrestler. Maybe he's trying to move into singles competition. Nobody looked good in this situation.
No.
Nobody looked good in this situation. I paid attention during the match. It didn't look like anybody took any like blows to the head. I don't think that anybody was like a concussion or any injury. I think maybe like they just had some miscommunication and got lost at what.
Do you think they practiced before the match in order to build?
No.
Yeah, see, that's what WWE does.
Well, yeah, because WWE, they're a professional company. AEW.
If you have two characters that have never faced each other before, there's at least
make sure
work done before. Exactly.
These guys, I think they probably met backstage 5 minutes before the match. Was like, oh yeah, we'll do this, yeah, you know. And I don't really like talking about that kind of stuff, you know, because when I watch wrestling, I like to kind of check my brain at the door and just, you know, pretend that what's going on is real life. AEW, it's very hard to do that, especially when you see them moving in slow motion, almost like they're talking to each other while they're doing it. That could be it too. Maybe they were trying to call it in the ring, and it just wasn't working out for them. But very embarrassing. And that was the main event of Collision. I'm glad, like, I hope the 400 people in the audience like that, because I didn't. I would have felt gypped. I would have felt ripped off if I went to that show and saw that live. I guess what I want to say, my message, Chris Jericho, please retire. Please retire from in-ring.
Or at least from in-ring competition.
Yeah,
please
retire from in-ring competition, or take some time off, get yourself in shape, and maybe you should be having the retirement run instead of Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah.
Get yourself in shape. Give yourself 6 months to a year of just a retirement tour. Like, it's okay to admit that you're not what you used to be. I know it's hard to admit it, but it's okay to admit it.
Even his most recent character arc isn't even resonating. The lending tree learning tree.
He's doing the same crap that Ricochet's doing, where they see that the fans don't like him anymore because of things outside of wrestling. Sometimes just the way that they act on the internet or whatever.
Yeah.
And instead of like just admitting that they're douchebags, they're like, oh, let's make it a character. then we'll be like, oh, well, I'm so good at being a heel that the fans hate me. It's like, no, they hated you before because you're an idiot. And
I mean, there's ways to do that. There's ways to lean into that. But I don't think Chris Jericho's doing a very good job of it this go around.
Well, no, he did the learning tree, did the Hi Guys TV time because people were complaining that he was getting too much TV time, that people didn't want to see him anymore. So he's like, oh, I'm going to turn that into a character. I don't see that as being creative. I see that as you just trying to take an opportunity.
Yeah.
When clearly the fans don't want to see you anymore. Like, you making it into a character doesn't make it better. It really doesn't.
You know what, Jericho? You just made the list.
Yeah, the list of please leave.
Yeah.
Please leave. Please go away forever. Please be a commentator. Maybe
Bring back the light bright jacket. Do something.
Yeah, get the light bright jacket. But at the end of the day, the world will always keep spinning, especially regarding Chris Jericho. I think he's like, I almost think he's like EVP level a little bit. I think he might be like close to like EVP level in that company because he kind of just makes his own. He books himself. It seems like he just kind of does whatever he wants to do. I don't know if Tony Khan really has say in his booking at all. He just kind of does what he thinks is fun. It seems like. But moving on from Chris Jericho's horrible performance to the Smackdown recap, it was Smackdown 3 hours once again. But I did hear that they will be switching back to 2 hours. When that happens, I don't know. But it was 3 hours, and I have to be completely honest with you. It felt like 3 hours to me. It felt like the show dragged a little bit.
The pacing was not the same as Raw.
I'm not sure how I felt.
Pacing was off.
Yeah. So first thing of note, Paul Heyman came to the ring and he announced that Roman Reigns will be participating in the Royal Rumble. Be honest, that came out of left field for me a little bit. Was not expecting that. And it kind of, I don't know. That kind of like, it makes things interesting for the Rumble. Because Roman Reigns is their, like, one of their very tippy-top guys. So now having him in the Rumble with Cena, there's a little conflict there. Like, how are they going to have Roman still look strong while having Cena in the Rumble? How are they going to have Cena look strong with Roman being in there? They can.
That's the beauty of the Rumble.
There's ways they can kind of keep them separated, but
do they need to? Because it sets the stage for a lot of feuds.
Yeah.
Post WrestleMania, right?
That
Maybe they do get into an altercation, but not enough of one that says they're going to hate each other tomorrow.
Absolutely.
It could be post WrestleMania, and there could be a resurgence of John Cena versus Roman Reigns.
Absolutely. So that was pretty interesting. We also had a men's U.S. title match between Nakamura and LA Knight. I'll be honest, I think I said it last time. I'm not the biggest LA Knight fan. He just doesn't resonate with me.
Let's see how it works for Nakamura. That character isn't doing anything at all.
Nakamura, it's kind of... I'm letting it simmer a little bit. It's a new character. I kind of like the presentation when he's coming to the ring. A little creepy.
That's the only thing I like.
Yeah.
But that's not enough. That's not enough for me to be like, all right, I'm vested in where this is going.
I'll say I'm more vested in Nakamura than I am LA Knight. LA Knight is almost like a time capsule to me. He's like,
yeah.
If we went back to 2001 in the Attitude Era and trapped an Attitude Era wrestler in a time capsule and brought him to now, it would be LA Knight. It would be LA Knight without the steroids and drugs and everything.
Yeah.
But you never know. I think LA Knight, his promos are okay. Like, I think people kind of overhype him a little bit. He doesn't do anything special for me on the mic. He doesn't do anything special for me in the ring. I think the most exciting thing about him is that the fans get to chant with him in his promos with the yeah. I guess it's my personal opinion. He's just not
you know what
thing.
really matters? The merch.
Yeah, and he
is
does
Nakamura selling merch?
He does sell
Probably
merch.
not.
Yeah.
LA Knight selling merch. I mean, he's not at the level of Jey Uso, but he's selling more merch than most others.
He has some star power. He does somewhat look like a star when he's doing a red carpet or something like that. He does look like a wrestler. When you see him, he looks like a wrestler. and I think that's very important because some of these guys
Yeah.
they don't. So I guess he has that going for him. Maybe if they tweak it a little bit, maybe my biggest thing is I don't buy him as a babyface. Maybe I buy him more as a heel. And I think maybe they need to play along with that a little bit at some point.
Go back to max male models.
No, but I think they could play with him as a heel for a little bit. I don't know. We'll see what happens. And then we had a U.S. women's title match. Chelsea Green versus Michin.
For the nth time?
Yes. This is something I want to touch on here. So, okay, it's for the U.S. title, so I guess that's new. But Michin and Naomi and Bayley, they always seem to be in the title picture. And it's like Ring Around the Posy with those three. It's either Michin getting a title opportunity or Naomi or Bayley. And Michin versus Chelsea Green, we've seen at least 4 times. Either number one contenders, I think we saw in the tournament. Yeah, it was the finals in the tournament for the U.S. title. They saw it in the dumpster match.
Yeah.
And then we saw it before the dumpster match.
And you'd think the dumpster match would have been the end of it. But no.
Should have been the end.
Yeah.
Michin got her win. So why is she still feuding with Chelsea Green? So they had the dumpster match. Yeah. They had the dumpster match, and then it just so happened they were in the finals for the title. Which, okay, that makes sense. It wasn't really a feud. They were just in the finals. But why is this continuing after that? Michin lost. How did she get...
The issue's depth. Depth. There isn't depth with the women on SmackDown, and they've exposed the problem more by introducing a secondary title.
Yes,
I don't have anything against the secondary title.
They need to build up the
I like the idea of a secondary title, right? Because it elevates the women's division, but in order to keep elevating them, where's the talent? Bring more in.
Yeah, they need some more in. They need to get some people from NXT.
Otherwise, it's recycling.
We need to get Charlotte back off the injured list. We need to get Becky Lynch back off the injured list. They need to swap some people from shows. Jade Cargill, she needs to get back. Whatever's going on with her, I'm not sure. They have potential for some big things to happen. Just right now, we're kind of in limbo, and it's frustrating because we're seeing the same matches over and over again. So then we had a Tiffany Stratton in-ring segment, her celebrating her title win, Nia Jax interfering, kind of causing some issues, and then we had a whole, they got everybody out of the woodwork. Bayley came out, Bianca and Naomi came out, and then that ended up being a fatal 4-way number 1 contenders match. I kind of like when they do triple threats, fatal 4-ways, because for one, that immediately guarantees you it's going to be no disqualification. So you're not going to get any shady victories. Well, you'll get shady victories, but it's not going to be like a disqualification ending or anything like that. So you're going to get a conclusive victory. Unfortunately for this, for one thing I noticed during this match, they didn't play up the fact that Bianca and Naomi were tag team champions. You would have thought you'd see more double teaming between them during this match. Because obviously you got the tag team champions against 2 other opponents, but it was for a singles title opportunity. Maybe it was just me, but I forgot that they were even tag team champions while they were doing the match. It seemed like
I don't know. I didn't forget that, but there was one important scene during the match, and we don't have a footage of it. Yep. But Bianca Belair does. I think she does her kiss of death.
Yes.
On one of them, and she falls on Naomi, and I thought, oh. They're going to do a pin.
It almost looked like that was going to be the end of the match.
And then she rolls off of Naomi. And I'm like,
interesting.
Was that accidentally she fell on Naomi? Or was that foreshadowing? And we'll never really know.
That could be playing into the story. Like, we still don't know who attacked Jade Cargill. We have our thoughts. I think it is more than likely Naomi. Some people think
I thought it was Bianca. Yeah.
Some people think it's both. Some people think
could
Naomi
be both.
And Bianca.
It could be both. Yeah.
Well, we know that Bianca, she didn't do it live because she was having a match when they revealed that Jade Cargill was attacked. That's not saying that she couldn't have attacked her before that match.
Right.
So I think we're going to find out very soon what happens there. Maybe we'll have to wait till Jade returns to figure that out. Maybe we'll have to wait till the Royal Rumble for that to happen and see who Jade attacks. That's assuming if Jade's a surprise entrant. That'd be interesting if she was.
We don't even know, is she injured or she's just in NXT getting some training? Not NXT,
I mean,
Performance Center
if we're
getting
talking
training.
off script, from what I hear, she's in NXT now training. So obviously she's not injured to the point where she's not physically able to do anything.
That's what I think is happening, right?
So
even though, you know, there's rumors abound.
If she's training, then she should be back soon. So yeah, that match ended with Bayley getting a title opportunity. Did they announce that it's going to be next week, or is this just a vague "you're the number one contender" thing? And
Well, you know what? I'm not even sure now. At least it wasn't Naomi.
I'm assuming. I think if they would have said it was for next week, that would have stuck out in my head and remembered.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I was afraid it was going to be Naomi. I thought that they were going to give her. Let's just say in 2025, so far, we've had 2 SmackDown episodes. One of them, Naomi had a title match. One of them, Naomi was in a number one contenders title match.
Yeah.
Let's keep track of how many title opportunities Naomi gets this year. Title opportunity, in my mind, means a title match or a number one contenders match. So far, she is 2 for 2. 2 weeks of SmackDown, she's had a title opportunity. Next week, I'd assume she probably won't get another one until Bayley gets hers now. But we'll see.
Right. And you know what? If WWE wants to give it to her, just do it. Just pull the trigger.
They gotta
and establish a storyline with her.
Her
Don't just keep
character-
throwing her in the mix because there's no depth.
Her character as is just isn't, and this is like kind of emphasizing on what I talked about last week. Her character as it is just isn't it. Like, make her a heel. I would be totally up for Naomi getting a title shot as a heel, as a different character, a different personality, a different presentation than them saying her names like Sesame Street at the beginning, her coming out clapping with the light show. We've seen that since 2013. It's the Funkasaurus all over again. Because that's all she did.
There's a target audience for that, and it's the little kids, and I get that. Then that's the Bailey Hugger character.
Yeah.
Right? Bailey Hugger character from 8 years ago was that, and there's a target audience for that. And it's for little kids that are dreaming of what they're going to be growing up, and that's fine, but that's not your A-list headliners, right?
Yeah.
That's for a smaller demographic, a smaller audience.
If that's what
the adults aren't getting behind that. That's the little kids getting behind that.
If that's what her purpose is, though, to kind of be an
But then you're throwing her
inspiration to
into
kids.
contention.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Don't give her so many title shots. Let her be that inspiration for kids, for females, for whatever. She doesn't need title shots every week. She could be
Right.
part of the mix without being in title.
She's already established. We know who she is.
Do we see
know
our
what value
Truth
she
getting
brings.
heavyweight title shots every week?
No.
He appeals to kids. He appeals to younger audience. He appeals to casual fans.
Right.
That's my whole argument. Like, I'm not saying she's a bad talent. Her presentation just isn't there. Is that WWE's fault? Maybe. Is that her fault? Maybe. Part of it. Maybe it's part of both. But
Right.
it's
But that's revealing the bigger problem, which is there's a lack of depth on the women's roster on the main shows.
Yes.
On both sides. It's exposed on both ends, actually.
Yes.
Not just
Raw
SmackDown.
has the same problem. Yes.
Yeah. And the funny thing is NXT seems to have incredible depth, but they're not really
Not
pulling the
everybody's
trigger.
ready. Yeah, not everybody's
Yeah.
ready in NXT. as
Roxanne
well.
Perez, maybe,
Yeah.
is the closest I see.
The thing with NXT, and this is what's important when we see that NXT beats AEW in the ratings so often, they're learning on the job there. Like, a lot of them aren't ready for the main roster yet. They're learning on the job. And you see that sometimes, and then you see excellent matches other times. You see people that are just ready to get to the main roster. There's so many names I could mention that would be incredible on the main roster, and we'll see when that actually happens. Sal Roca is one of them that I think would be amazing on the main roster. Roxanne Perez. There's a couple other names. Of course, Julia, Stephanie Valcoir, I think her name is. That, like, they just came to NXT though, so I think they still got some time over there. But
Yeah.
they have a lot of talent that could be waiting to come to the main roster. The main event for SmackDown was, and I'll be honest, I wasn't really interested in this. It just seemed kind of thrown together. The New Bloodline versus Jimmy Uso and Cody Rhodes. the main thing that I saw from this was the show altogether. SmackDown ending with Cody Rhodes and Owens brawling in the arena, and what was it? Cody speared like Kevin Owens into like some tables in the crowd or the audience or something like that. So really, 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 the main event, even though it involved the new bloodline, was more to promote the Kevin Owens Cody Rhodes thing, which is fine. It was just fair.
I think there was a secondary thing. Notice that there was no Solo Sikoa.
No,
and Jacob Fatu was the representative.
Yeah, they did promote that Solo will be back next week. They made a big point to promote that he will be back. So they are treating him like a main event star. They're
true, but
it's almost like them promoting that Roman Reigns will be here next week.
Yeah, but I do think that Jacob Fatu was able to still represent the bloodline pretty well in Solo's absence. I don't feel like we were left with like the total B team of the new bloodline. I think Jacob Fatu was stepping up to the plate.
Very true.
I don't know if that just happened that way, or if WWE has a real plan between Jacob Fatu and Solo, as in a split, or they're testing the waters to see what he does. When it comes
to the new bloodline, I think Jacob's going to be a standout.
I agree. I agree.
But yeah, that's how SmackDown ended with Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens brawling. I understand it because they're not going to book like Kevin Owens in matches when they're making him seem kind of like just this AWOL superstar. He just kind of does what he wants. It's almost like a Stone Cold Steve Austin type deal, where he kind of will just show up, interfere, disrupt things in the arena. A lot of his promos are outside in like his car filming on a phone. So they can't really like schedule him for matches as often because it's like he's supposed to be kind of like a rebel, supposed to be like off the grid a little bit, which is, I think, is kind of cool. And he also is basically holding the one title for hostage. So I think that's a really cool direction they're going with that. Unfortunately, I don't see Kevin Owens winning this feud overall. It's too close to WrestleMania to do a title change, in my opinion, right now.
I agree.
But I think it has some legs to it, and I think him and Randy Orton will be a good feud to move into once he's done with the Cody Rhodes bit here. Yeah, so that's how SmackDown ended, and now we just go over some predictions maybe for next week. How do you think next week's Raw on Netflix? Well, tomorrow's Raw on Netflix. What are you expecting from that? I don't think the presentation will be quite the same as it was this past week.
You think it's business as usual?
No, I think that we're still going to have a different feel and look for Raw. It's not going to go directly back to how Raw and USA was. But I also feel like it's going to be a little more organized than it was on Raw for Netflix for the debut. They do have some matches promoted. The one that stands out to me is the finals for the Women's Intercontinental. Dakota Kai versus the Bird Girl Valkyrie, I think.
Yeah. Who do you think's going to win that?
My heart tells me Dakota Kai.
I agree. She had a really good showing in the last match.
Yes, we emphasized on that, and the finishing. Well, it wasn't the finishing move that was questioning to me, but that the rolling backcracker I thought was an excellent move. Should really be her finishing move in my opinion. What other match did they announce? I thought, Chad Gable versus a mystery opponent who I think we all know is going to be Penta L0 or whatever they call him. That's going to be very interesting. That's going to be the Penta was, I would say he was a top AEW talent. He held the tag team titles many times in AEW. He was like an AEW original. He was a big focus in their like tag team division in their Lucha Libre side.
And he cut a promo at all? Because I don't know if I've ever heard him
They had a manager.
Okay.
So the thing is with him, and WWE's really going to have to work on the presentation. But if they present him correctly, he could be like he could be a yin to Rey Mysterio's yang.
I was just going to say that, like because Rey Mysterio...
He could be an evil Rey Mysterio.
Yeah.
He's got a very dark undertone to his character, and he plays it well. but it's going to be up to WWE for that presentation.
I think WWE struggles with presenting the Latino element very well, with the exception of Rey Mysterio has been their most
so Penta
valued success.
He's a fully masked like luchador, so
right.
And usually his entire gear is usually a black and white type getup. You don't really see him in colors and stuff like that. It's a very dark character when presented that way. He could also be a silly character if presented a certain way, but it's going to be interesting to see what WWE's presentation is with him like, and what they're going to allow him to do, because some of the stuff he did in AEW, I don't see a WWE being cool with.
Yeah, because you have like Legado del Fantasma supposed to be the top heel Latino faction.
Yes.
And it's just not resonating right now, right? They're just not. There's something missing. I don't know if Penta needs to be involved in that. Penta needs to be a rogue by himself. I think the only problem with being a rogue by himself is that people want to see character, and if he can't cut promos, then he needs to be partnered with somebody who can aid to that presentation.
Yeah. If the presentation is done right, I think that we could see Penta versus Rey Mysterio at WrestleMania, but the presentation has to be done correctly. Because
maybe partner with Dominic Mysterio if they're gonna dissolve the Judgment Day. I see a very good partnership there.
Maybe, but we'll have to see how WWE presents him, because there is a language barrier there. Are they going to put him with a mouthpiece? Who knows? Are they going to try to have him cut promos? Who knows?
Where's Ricardo Rodriguez? Maybe bring him back.
He hasn't worked at WWE for over 10 years, dude.
Yeah, but he was able to.
Saw him, he was like wrestling in his whitey tighties for El Ultra Del Rio.
Oh, that's right.
I think he had a brown stain on the back of him too.
But he was at least able to connect a little bit.
I guess.
Okay, don't take that entirely seriously.
His personal ring announcer.
Yeah.
For AEW, I don't see Will Hobbs winning the match against Jon Moxley.
No.
I really don't. I see some sort of beatdown going on, probably outnumbered.
You know what the most interesting thing is?
Yeah.
What's going on with Toni Storm? We didn't touch on that at all.
So she's playing a character right now where she's almost has like dementia or something. Like she. Apparently her character has totally forgotten her whole run as Timeless Toni Storm, and she's back to the character that she originally debuted in AEW as.
But losing streak, and seems to be losing confidence in herself.
Yeah, and she's like acting like she's a newcomer. I don't know.
Is this all build up to just replay the Timeless Toni Storm all over again?
I think so. I don't think there's. I think they go week by week. I don't think there's any long-term planning here.
Okay.
I think they're going.
Look, I like the Timeless Toni Storm, but that's such a gimmick.
It was getting played out.
It's so gimmicky. It happened to work, but that has its limits. It's not. It's too gimmicky, right? Like you can take the bloodline, and the bloodline can last many, many years because you can evolve it into different things. The Timeless Toni Storm is a very limited gimmick. It had a limited shelf life. It was a very decent gimmick.
They overextended,
but it ran
as
its.
They could, yeah.
It is it.
They created 2 stars out of it. They created Timeless Toni Storm. She was already a star, but then Mariah May, they attached her to it, which I didn't agree with at first, but then eventually I guess it had its payoff. She ended up being she's a main event caliber star in AEW now, so I guess I was wrong on that front.
Yeah. And then where's Britt Baker?
That's what I was going to say. Where the hell is Britt Baker? She came back. She returned against Mercedes Moné. People didn't like the match. Then they just took her off of television. Then they went to Pittsburgh. She came back again. Like, is she just going to do returns from now on? Like, she just said, Britt Baker's back next week. And then, like, she just disappears. I don't get it. Britt Baker is one of my favorite female talent in any wrestling promotion. I don't understand the whole deal there. I know that she had the breakup with Adam Cole. So maybe that's part of it. There's so much drama in AEW backstage that it's just ridiculous. And that's what happens when you don't work in a professional atmosphere. In WWE, you break up with your boyfriend or something, guess what? You need to be on fucking Raw the next day or SmackDown.
Yeah. Save the drama for your mama.
Yeah, AEW, they're like, oh, we're going to give you 3 months at home so you can deal with it.
Yeah.
You know, it's whatever. I just hope she comes back soon, honestly. I miss Britt Baker. And for SmackDown, so we got Solo Sikoa coming back next week. We'll see what he's kind of doing there. Honestly, I don't really have too many predictions going on for SmackDown. They didn't really announce any matches, did they?
If they did, I forgot.
Yeah,
We were
I
so
really
focused
don't
on the
think-
Raw and
yeah.
Netflix.
It's hard to really do predictions for SmackDown. Usually during the week they'll announce some things and everything like that. So I guess you kind of just have to move on along through the week, get ready for Raw tomorrow night. AEW, they promoted a couple matches, then SmackDown by Thursday we'll probably have a match card lined up. So it's a little early to do Royal Rumble predictions. I still think Cena's going to win the whole damn thing. I think that's the direction we're going in there.
I don't see it, but okay.
Well, so far
He'll be in the final four. He'll be in the final four.
So far, we have 3 people announced for the Royal Rumble. Cena formally announced it. CM Punk, I wouldn't call it a formal announcement, but in his little tantrum after his match that he won, he said that he was going to be in the Royal Rumble.
Right.
So I guess technically it was a formal announcement, and then Roman Reigns formally announced by Paul Heyman that he was going to be in the Royal Rumble. So you got 3 right there. 3 very valid contenders to win the whole thing, honestly, if you're thinking about it. I still think Cena. I also heard some rumors that apparently WWE may have contacted Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Ric Flair
Yes.
about Royal Rumble appearances.
Yes.
Jim Duggan, I think he might be able to get in the ring and get knocked out. Flair, I don't think can do it. I don't think Flair could get in the ring and like. Technically, if he would enter the Rumble, that means he'd have to go over the top rope. And
No.
Is it like are they going to do a Pat McAfee thing where Pat McAfee got scared and like just walked out of the ring himself? Like that
don't
would be so
know.
dumb to do with Ric Flair.
I don't know.
Like Jim Duggan, I think he's old. I think maybe he could come in, throw a couple punches, get clothesline over the top rope. It'll just be a cool little moment.
Yeah.
Like Flair, let's not touch that at all. And plus, is Ric Flair in AEW anymore? Did that contract expire or something?
I'm not sure.
Like, I don't know. So it's too early to do Royal Rumble predictions, but we do know the 3 people that are going to be in it.
Yeah.
That's pretty much going to be it for this week, though, guys. Thank you so much, everybody that came in and hung out. Missy, Assault, yep. Fandango, yep. No, I'm going to try to do the fart noises in the name of the voice. Missy, thank you for coming in and chat. Peaches for free, thank you for coming in the chat. Over on TikTok, we had some people chatting. What's his name? Kevin Laundry, thank you for coming in. People hanging out over on TikTok, checking us out. We'll be back next week, next Sunday. I think we might be back onto our evening time slot, but I'll let you know if that changes throughout the week. Thank you guys again, and we will catch you next week.